Well, welcome. Good morning and welcome to another episode of 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast. You know, we had so much fun the last time. We had such a good talk. We brought Miss Jackson back in the house because we wanted to talk today again. We just decided that this is our church.
This is
Happy Sunday, lady.
Hallelujah.
How is you?
I'm not too bad. Just, back stuff is prominent in my life constantly, but that's about it. Just living the dream. Yeah.
The back feels dream is amazing. I'm like, I had a hot tub this morning because I was like, yep, I'm gonna need it. Got a bath bomb, put it in there.
Just living the dream, just floating.
Well, for a little bit. I was living the scream because I could hear my kids downstairs.
I'm always living the scream. It's usually at video games, though.
It's like, you TV. Oh, that's like, my kids won't pick up video. They'll play video games few and far between, but when they do, you can tell when they're frustrated when they're their guy doesn't move or something. It's like, but now it's like they're at that age where they'd rather watch somebody play it on YouTube. I'm like, you want to watch somebody else play a video game? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what does this do for you? It makes them jump. It makes them jump and jump and jump and jump. And I think there's bombs going off outside my house. Oh, yeah. So that is kids. So that's why I had a scream fest this morning. It was good though.
You gotta get it out. Get it out.
Oh yeah, they get up so early, and then they just get up. They've already been out swimming this morning. So those are the kind of kids that. Yeah, they had to get in it's a kiddie pool, of course, but they had to get in it this morning. They're like, Mom, come in the pool. I'm like, no, not this morning, this afternoon. I'm like, right now there are a million bees outside. Killer bees, y'all. They were going to
on the swarm.
Oh my God. So oh my God. So I was talking to you the other day about, of course, my husband pops his head in to the door and he wanted to say hello to you because what did you describe his voice as the other day? I was talking about going to Matthew McConaughey's sleep stories and how I listen to that to go to sleep.
I said something along the lines of, there's something about his voice that is just like butter melting. It is just, and I love listening to him talk.
I love it so much. It's when I told him, I was like, Erin just loves your voice. It's just she says your voice is like a non-addictive heroin.
Yeah.
Face went 50 shades of pink because he's ginger as fuck, right? So of course he went every shade of red. Oh my God, oh my God, it's beyond pink. He was magenta. It was amazing. But I'll tell you, if I was gonna get some snippets of his voice and send them to you for sleep stories where he just talk about video games.
Oh my God, I would live. I would love it. I literally would love it. And it's so funny because all those ASMR videos on the internet, I'm always like, I don't know, man. There's something about people unwrapping a candy close to a microphone that makes me want to murder somebody.
Oh, but my face.
Right? But I listened to your husband talk and I'm like, dope.
Well, you know what? In the words of Susan Sarandon, that only leads to trouble and seat wetting. I'm not sending you shit. You're going to wet the bed.
Joke's on you. I got a mattress cover.
Oh, I'll send you whatever you want. I'll send you whatever you want. Oh my God! But you gotta put it in a special place. No, I'm glad we got back together.
Just put him on Mercedes and Stephen's podcast and let him read those stories.
He would be so embarrassed. I think that he would fucking puke. He would even when he was watching the one that I did, he was his face was amazing because
mortified.
Well, backstory disgusting. I think I said this on Mercedes' podcast. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Or I said it on mine before that there was a time that I wrote a little amateur erotic literature.
I have heard this story. Yes, it was on Mercedes' podcast, I think.
And so Rob had found it and was like embarrassed when he read that. He was like, "Oh wow, like wow, this explains a lot." I'm like, and so then doing Mercedes and Steven's podcast, doing that sexy podcast. When I read that, like I couldn't even get through the first page. I was ready. I was gonna cry. Like you've seen it. It's atrocious for me. Like that I couldn't get through that. I can get through a lot of things, but that I couldn't because deep down inside, I am a 12-year-old boy, and all I do is like I'm still like playing with Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters and like bashing them together and like
laughing at dick and fart jokes.
Oh, dick and fart jokes are the bread and butter of our world. Like, don't you know? Like honestly, I think that like dick and fart jokes are like the only jokes that are funny right now. Like, I'm serious. Like, you and I decided we were going to talk about like accountability and things like that on the show today. And that's hilarious that you bring up dick and fart jokes. I swear to God that like dick and fart jokes might be like the only jokes that are safe right now. Everything that I read on the internet, and maybe it's just me, and this is coming from an overprivileged fucking white woman, I'm like offended at. Like super offended. Yesterday, somebody posted some shit about, you know, the water boy, Bobby Boucher.
Yeah.
That character that Adam Sandler played.
Adam Sandler plays, yeah.
Yeah, and they posted it on a radio station that was in London, and they put something about homeschooling your kids. Like, it's like the kids' fault that they're at home right now. And how they basically poke fun at intellectual disabilities and everyone, because his character in that movie was intellectually disabled. Yeah, like maybe I laughed at it 20 years ago when it came out.
Yeah.
But like now, so I commented on it and I shouldn't have commented on it. And everyone's like, learn to take a joke, lady. And so of course I'm like, no, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to get another Facebook ban.
And let me guess that everybody pulls out the like, it's cancel culture. Everything's being canceled. And it's just like,
good.
Nobody's taking the water boy away from you. They're just telling you to be aware that is not, like, it's not an accurate representation, first of all, of people with intellectual disabilities. Absolutely at all, not. Right? They're trying to make sure that you do not get out there and make the comparison of real life humans to like over stereotyped things. It's accountability. Like,
it is accountability, and there has to be it, and that's what there's none of. I've literally been like, I got a Facebook ban for my stance on the accountability of pedophiles. I said that they should take one bullet to the brain, and that I preferred my pedophiles the way I prefer my tea, in a bag underwater. Someone like on my Facebook, some
reported you.
Yeah, on my own Facebook. I'm like, really? You're telling on me on my own Facebook? Fuck off. So I'm like, whatever. So like all like the hate messages and the shit and all the, you know, everything that goes down, and everybody is, I'm quick to get offended these days. I never used to be, but these days with all the things going on and all the things that are coming to light and truths coming out, yeah, I'm fucking offended about things.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that, like, I don't even know if offended is the terminology that I would use. I think that people are becoming far more self-aware of the fact that, like, how do I explain it? It's like people are not having the world circle them anymore. They're realizing that they have to circle the world. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not about what's directly in front of them that they have to acknowledge. They have to acknowledge that, you know what, like, yeah, you made horrible gay jokes, but guess what? Now your grandkids are gay. Like, you need to recognize that is a behavior that you held that affected people or affects people around you, because it's not just about you. Right?
It's not only about you. You got to think in a more lateral sort of direction. And I think that lateral thinking, that becomes accountability, which I think is like, step one. I think accountability is not like the end of things. You become accountable for something. It's not like, I'm accountable for it, I'm sorry, and then it's the end, right? You need to go on, and you can absolutely do things and advocate for things that necessarily, like you say, making gay jokes and then your grandchildren end up gay. you can advocate for something and be happy about something and celebrate something that you never celebrated in the past or never advocated for in the past, or that you may have made fun of in the past. But still, you got to hold accountability for it. And this all came to light. I was like, we need to talk, because my favorite friend and yours, you got a private message on Facebook. I'm not going to say her last name, but everyone knows her first name because she stalks me on Twitter. Miss Ashley sent you a picture of me, because we had talked on our last podcast episode about what
racial injustice and being a person of color in society during these times specifically, and about well, and like I said, I can't speak for everybody who's like in my race or in any other race, but for me, I'm like, it's about anti-racist education, and it's about when you know better, you do better, right? That's
so anyone who like would have watched the show would have like known that, right?
Yeah.
So you get like a cool message, like of like a piece of fan mail, and it's me. It's from our friend Ashley out in Cambridge. I just want to say hi because I know you're listening. Hi, girl. Hey. Sup? And it is a picture of me. And you've been approached about this before, but you and I've talked about this before. In blackface, in full blackface makeup. I think that's what you call it. Is that appropriate? Is that term appropriate?
Yeah, that's what most people would call it. Yeah, is that
we'll
somebody painted themselves in blackface. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so in what year would it have been? 2012? No.
Was it? It was about. I want to say it was about 13 years ago, because Carter's 16 now. He'll be 17 next March, and it was around the time he would have been like 3 or 4, maybe.
He was like toddling.
Because like I think we had just recently maybe left London at the time. And we moved back from London to Stratford when he turned 4.
Yeah, because you were living close to my mom. Like you were like literally down the street. I could drive down the street from my mom's house and go to your house. You lived super close. So that was around the time it was. And I was in a cool relationship at the time. And it was around Halloween. And I decided, in some mind of mine at the time, that it was going to be a great idea to go out as the black version of myself, Latanya. And, at the time, I thought, I honestly saw no problem with it. I didn't see that it was funny or anything, but I literally thought of it as like a Halloween costume. I'm like, I'm not going out as anyone. I'm not going out as someone like specific. I'm not going out as my friend so-and-so, or I'm not going out as an entertainer or a comedian.
Because that was actually one of the things that we discussed about why, like, I understand why it's offensive, right? Like
it's super offensive.
That's not the issue here. But I also recognize that you did not go out making a mockery of a specific black person, which for me, that is like over the top. Like when someone, like people who go out as like buckwheat, or like there was some famous woman who went out as Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black.
From Orange is the New Black?
Yeah. A white woman went out as Crazy Eyes, and like, so this is the other thing. And I know that this is ridiculous to say, but like when you did it, you legit like painted yourself. The woman who did Crazy Eyes, I'm talking like, it looks like she dipped her fingers in pudding and just went like this. Like, it's
I went all out. Like,
yeah,
I look like a different human being. Like, I painted my hands. Not that it was right at all, because it's fucking horrible. Mm-hmm. So when it did happen, like, I honestly, like, if I think about that compared to like things that I've done in a rock and roll band, like I've been the crotch of a million blow up dolls. I would rather my kids see me bite the crotch out of a blow up doll than know that I was in like blackface, and know that, because especially like my son, like at 6 years old, what he knows about racism and stuff, and the way you change and the things you advocate, and again, like, know better, do better now. Like, I was totally in a bad place, but that's like an excuse that totally a white person would use. I'd be like, I was in a bad place, so I did something crazy. So like, but like literally the person that I was with went out, got me foundation, I painted myself up, and we went to a Halloween party, as you do when you dress up. And I will tell you, the tables turned awfully fucking quickly. It was the fucking strangest experience of my life. So blackface, a lot of people know that I did that. What a lot of people don't know is what happened after. And this is a conversation that you and I have had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think that people don't know that you and I talked about this.
Well, and that's a big part of it, right? Like, I had a conversation with you in private about the choice to do that, the fallout from it, like all that stuff, right? Like, we talked about it like years ago. Everybody was just kind of like, haha, that's hilarious. Like, it is
that's
what
funny.
it is. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm sure there's a dozen or so of those people who saw you do that even today are like, this is racially unacceptable. Like, people can't talk to people like this. And they're the same people who are advocating for those things not to happen. Like,
sure.
So it's like, you can't get mad at her now for something she did then when you were on board for it then and are not on board for it now, because in both situations you learned a lesson and you were like, that was wrong. I'm sorry I did that. I should have never done that. Blah, blah, blah.
It's like beyond wrong. It's like, it's horrible. And like, I am sorry that I did it. More sorry. And like, I'm ashamed of myself that I did that. It was fucking ridiculous. Like, when I think back to it, it's like, you can't be like, oh, I was in my 20s, so I was an idiot. Like, there's a lot of things you can be like, I was in my 20s, so I was an idiot. But that's not one of them. It's not cool. It is wrong. It was wrong.
Yeah. Well, for me, the fact that you, like, that's how you've always spoken to me about it. You're like, you acknowledge and you hold yourself accountable. A lot of people would do exactly what you're talking about. They make that whole like, well, I'm not that person. Like, oh, there was all these mitigating circumstances. I felt pressure. Like, everybody has like their off the rails story that made them do a thing. And I get it.
Oh, hell
because
no.
There's a lot of people who have, like, I guess it's also about the whole like thing of like, so it's like a lot of like intergenerational like trauma makes people behave a certain way, and that I think is a lot of people have those situations where they come from their environment thinking that something is just the way it is until they learn, and then they're like, holy shit, this ain't right. This ain't okay. Right. And I think
mind blown.
Yeah. Like, and I think that that's something that you, like, you held yourself accountable. You apologized. You explained, and you didn't make excuses. You have never, ever made an excuse to me about what you did.
Oh, hell no. But I have told you like what happened like after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was fucked what happened. Like, we ended up at a Halloween party, and like, obviously you've read the book Black Like Me. I've read the book Black Like Me. And then it fucking happened to me. I was like, so we show up at this Halloween party and everyone there was a white person. I will say, like, unequivocally. I walk in the door with the person that I'm with at the time, and they think that he has got now a girlfriend of color. I literally, the first thing they said when I walked in the door, and these were people that I hung out with and I thought were like good people. They're like, oh, it got awfully dark in here.
Yeah.
And I literally did not know what the fuck to do. I have never, ever felt like that in my life. And I was on the other side of it, seeing it through my like eyes. I knew I was me underneath all the makeup and everything, but no one else knew. Not one fucking person.
Yeah.
And that was the minute my eyes were open. I was like, oh my God, I want to take this Halloween costume off right now. So of course I took off my hood and I like took off my wig and I'm like, it's Tanya, what's going on, guys? I'm like, that's not cool. I was like, kind of like shocked. I'm like, I have to go like sit somewhere for a minute.
Yeah. Right. Like, and yeah, it's a very, well, and I think that was a huge part of you absorbing the moment and being like, holy Jesus, there are people who just walk around in life and this is the behavior of people and how they treat people of color. Like, this is their generic everyday, like, when we're standing in the dark, they're like, oh, smile, I can't see you. Like, the whole.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they're like, it's just a joke,
totally
bro.
got that.
Just a joke.
Like, no, it's not a joke. And I'm also not your bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I think like how you say how now people are seeing things differently and that they're seeing that things are not all about them, that becomes like this lateral thinking, and you start realizing that it's not all about you. And that like blew my head like off. It blew my head wide open to see people that I knew that were just like being openly, I'm not going to be like, oh, they're being shitty. No, they were being openly fucking racist to my face because they didn't know it was me. Oh my God, that's like, that makes it the least part of okay. You brought someone brand new to a party and then they're a person of color and then you're shitty to them. I feel like that's like double shitty. Like,
it's a weird dynamic for sure. Like, it's a huge part of the accountability thing. Like, why do you think that this person is a safe person for you to behave like that? It's either one of two things. One, they're fully aware that you were painted after they found out it was you, so they were like, whatever, it's Tanya, I can talk shit. Or the second reason is because they're literally think that they get a pass because they use the I have black friends excuse, or the like, it's just a joke. Like, life, you shouldn't take life so seriously. It's like, well, this is my life.
I get that one a lot.
I wear this every day. So I'm going to take anything racially charged pretty seriously at this point, right? Like,
well, and seeing what like friends and close people to you go through, like, even I'm like racially charged and then I get in trouble for it on the internet. Like,
oh, I do too. I get it.
Oh, I'm like, I got go on the comment section.
Right? I got micro Facebook banned when I stood up for like that crazy woman who came at Rachel K. Yeah, because I did not hold back. I called her like seriously, like a see you next Tuesday. Like,
but she was being a see you next Tuesday. What in the heck?
Yeah, but like, and that's so, and that's it's and it's that whole accountability thing. Like, I get it. I don't know this woman. I shouldn't be playing ad hominem with a stranger on the internet. But when people have shitty behavior that affects anybody else, I think physically, mentally, could be trauma triggering, I am going to fucking call you out on it because I think it's bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that is accountability. I'm not trying to cancel you. I want you to fucking do better. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I think that that's like, a huge and important thing.
People can't be accountable. They can't be accountable. They can't apologize. Like, I don't understand it. Like, this morning I made the mistake, like the grim mistake of like reading the news. And of course it's about the Catholic Church. So let's talk fucking accountability here too.
Yep, 100%.
Oh, the Pope's like, they don't want to apologize for the tragedy that has just happened with Indigenous people.
So there is a fucked up shift blaming thing happening there that I have been noticing. It's like the church keeps wanting to be like, well, the Queen assigned us to do a thing.
Yep.
And then it's like, when they did it, the government of Canada is like, well, it wasn't us. The church did it because
blame
like
the church.
that was their job. And it's like, okay, first of all, the trifecta of you guys continue to fuck Indigenous people over to this day.
Yep, it's literally like a hell triangle that just never fucking stops. It's like a fucking ninja star of fucking ridiculousness.
It is the ninja star of white settler colonialism is what it is. That's all it is.
That might be what we call this episode. Fuck that ninja star. Like, that whole triad of piece of shit, like, is, oh my God. Like, why don't we start with like clean drinking water and go from there?
It's like
fucking assholes.
I'm sorry, you don't get to call cultural genocide a dark part of Canada's past when you continue to functionally and like just do it to this day still. You put like Indigenous kids are like, what, they make up like 70% of the foster care system.
Correct. That's absolutely
and it's
correct.
Like, and they like don't have access to clean water. They don't have access to the same sort of healthcare that we do. Well, not even me, the same healthcare that you do, because even I still get like racial
you get different healthcare as
bullshit.
well.
Yeah.
You get racial bias. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I speak to doctors that will tell me flat out that Black people get racial bias, especially Black women. They also tell me, because I have lots of friends in healthcare, they'll tell me flat out that Indigenous folks as well get a racial bias.
Oh yeah. Like there is endless, not even just like stories in the news, but like stories that I've heard from medical professionals,
like
where
personal
it's like
medical professionals. Yeah.
It's like
We know a lot of people.
Yeah, I know tons of people that work in medicine, and it's like
sure.
It's always the same story. It's there's always somebody who assumes that because this person lives on the reserve, that they have all the stereotypes of drugs and alcoholism and abuse and trauma and domestic violence and all that stuff. And it's like, you need to strip back those layers and understand that these are coping mechanisms. These are years of abuse from the system. Like
that keeps going. It's like cyclical abuse. It just never 100%. Stops.
It is.
It's never stops.
It is cultural fucking genocide.
Absolutely, it's cultural genocide.
They came here and they were like, we're gonna exchange things from the new world to these indigenous people, and we're going to make them think that we're trustworthy. We're going to make them think that like we're here to better their lives, when in a sense it's the same thing that they did to like my people when they took them. They're just like, absolutely, we actually think you're savages, and we think that everything that we do is right and proper and the best, so we're going to fucking destroy all of your history.
Yep, tear it down.
And like, for us in America, not so much here, in America, they shove Black people into ghettos, right? Like that's what they did. They redlined everybody. So they were everybody
in a very poor.
They're like, you have to stay.
The world.
Yeah,
stay
and
poor.
like last weekend was like the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, right? So it's like when they bunched us all up in a space, the minute anybody decided to get better, improve their lives, fend for themselves, become independent, what they do, they fucking bombed them. They bombed them, they murdered them, they burned their houses and businesses
down. They killed them, they burned their house to the ground. Yeah. And that's what they do.
That is what the government of Canada, the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the United Church, the Protestants, the whole, like, because the list
they're all involved.
Yeah, they're all there.
Everyone's like, I the other day I said something about the Catholic Church, and I was very, very humbly corrected by a very good friend of mine who does live on the reserve, and she's like, don't kid yourself, it was just not the Catholic Church. And she gave me like the list, right? And so of course there's me, and I'm like reading, and I talked to my dad, and my dad is not, you know how my dad is with religion, they're not friends. And he's like, this is disgusting, this is fucking disgusting. But like, we're on the phone, he's like, are the kids around? I'm like, no, I'm in the garage, I'm ready to talk. Because of course, like, we spoke about what happened with the residential school, like the recent residential school finding with that particular massacre that had happened. And I mean, 215 is small in regard to what it really is.
Oh, it's like
everybody's hung up on this fucking number that is like, it's a pebble dropped in a pond.
Because the same amount of children go missing or get killed in foster care. Like, the same amount of those kids just get, like, it's the same as, like, when you think about, like, the stuff that happens in Palestine, the stuff that happens in Colombia. Like, for years, like, the Mexican government covered up the murder of, like, women that would just go missing and get buried in that one chunk of the desert there. Like,
yes, it was like a whole, like, mass burial area.
Yeah. So there's like and this is accountability. There are governments across the world that are allowing their people to be killed in political resistance situations, like really insane laws that you have. For instance, Nigeria is in the process of shutting down Twitter because they don't want, like, there was a huge, like, because of remember they had all that policing situation where they were like just like killing like Black youth and they're going hard on the gay youth over there because
I say anyone who is gay got it particularly bad.
It's illegal to be gay there. So there are activists on the ground there that are part of the LGBTQ plus community who are like, the only way that they get information out is through Twitter because they don't have access to a lot of and if they shut Twitter down for those people, it's like their lifeline to the outside world is gone.
So they just want to like shut down their voice like completely?
Yeah. So it's like I have to look it up. There is a guy I follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
He is this is what I'm looking at. Down.
I always love your Instagram suggestions because they're always amazing. Like, I'm gonna have to mute this other account because I love this person. I'm like, what is this account that I follow?
His name is Matthew Blaise, Blaise, and he is I apologize. He's non-binary. They are non-binary. They are a queer rights activist, and they are just constantly like, here's a little like picture of what their Twitter looks like. It's just full of like information and pictures of like them. They started a foundation. They've been trying to organize on the ground. Like,
so they've been like extremely active in the community there. And obviously they've not been able to been shut down. Like they still have a voice, obviously via Instagram.
Oh, they actually already did it. The Nigerian government bans Twitter indefinitely in Nigeria.
Shut the front door.
Yeah. So
holy smokes.
Yeah. So they on their site they have a whole entire thing on how you can support by contacting the embassies and the consulate in Nigeria. Donate to the queer organizations. There's one that helps them over there called the oasisproject.co. Like a bunch of stuff like that. So yeah, that's the other reason I follow people like that, right? Because it gives me resources that I can like attempt to do things. Even if I can't do anything financially, I can write emails. I can contact,
you can spread the word,
people. Yeah. And that's why I share stuff like, well, you've seen, I've shared stuff like that on my one Instagram, right? Because even if you can't physically be somewhere to support somebody or to take the steps to hold the people who are doing that thing accountable, you can always show up in other ways. There's other ways to show up. It's spreading the word, helping people obtain resources. Yeah. And that also for me, that's a part of holding myself accountable for things that I know that I could change and things that I know that I can contribute to. Because I can't remember who was I watching. I was watching a speech, and it was a white woman, and she was discussing how no matter where you came from, if you are living in Canada now, even if you immigrated here a year ago or you immigrated here 25 years ago, regardless the color of your skin, we are settlers on Indigenous land.
Yep. 100% agree. And I've seen this coming like around. I don't know who wrote it either. And she's brilliant, whoever she is, because she's right. We're absolutely settlers. We're guests. So why aren't we fucking behaving like it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my question.
That's one of my huge things. Like I'm always like, well, maybe this wouldn't happen if people respected treaties.
No shit. Like it doesn't seem like it's so like difficult, but unfortunately, a lot of people have been like whitewashed, as I call it. And I've talked to a lot of like white friends about this too, and like what we learned in school, and even friends in the BIPOC community and what they were taught in school. Now, a lot of people I know didn't learn about residential schools until like university, which to me is fucking horrifying. I had a really like super, as they call like woke teacher, and I don't think she was teaching off the syllabus in grade 11. And she told us about residential schools in grade 11 in history class. And I remember, I'm not going to say her name because if she's still alive, bless her heart, she was the most amazing teacher. she taught things that were really on the border. And like, I really don't think that she was allowed to be teaching this, because no one else I know in history class learned about these things in grade 11 unless they were in this particular history class. And she taught us about residential schools. And I remember when she was reading from this book, and it didn't look like it came from like the regular school stuff and like the regular like textbooks we had. She sat at her desk and she read it to us, and she sat on top of her desk and she sat there and she sobbed and she read it to us.
Yeah.
And it hit me so fucking hard. And like half our class was crying. And it was a bunch of grade 11, like high school kids.
Yeah.
Number one, it scared the shit out of everybody because she told us the truth. And I know parents were pissed. They were pissed.
Yeah.
But guess what? Somebody told us the truth. She never got in trouble. But that's when I found out. Exactly, she shouldn't have. But you know how school boards are. Like even the school boards have like, they have a diversity board. Yeah, it's so diverse. It's a bunch of bullshit. Kids, what they're learning in school now, from what I notice, like what I see at home, is better. But we had that like whitewashed garbage. Like people are learning about residential schools now. And like, I understand that like they're shocked by it. But a lot of people, like I'm finding out, like I'm seeing that they're not shocked by it, and they don't really, they kind of just let it go by.
It is mortifying to me how there are people in our age group who didn't know.
I can't.
And I'm like, how? What? Like, you didn't know? You didn't know that the Canadian government high-fived the Queen on her way through with all of her priests and pastors, and
while they were all getting high fives too.
And it was like just down the line.
Yep.
Well, they just picked up thousands.
Stole them. They stole them.
Yeah. Just nabbed them, tearing them from the arms of their parents, screaming and crying.
Yep.
And we're like, don't worry. This is for the best.
It'll be okay.
Like, what?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Because I'll tell you right now, if somebody walked into a white couple's house and was like, I'm just going to take your kid because this is for the best.
Oh, do you think that would happen? I'm going to be like,
you're right.
Oh, sure. This is for the best.
It's like, never mind, actually. They do that on their own. It's called boarding school, where they're super rich and they just give their children to somebody else.
Never mind. This is for the best because you're being assholes. No, like they just took them away. They just took them away. But you're right. It would never happen in a white person's house. And I'm at like the age now where my kids are at the age where they if I was Indigenous and if I was of Indigenous descent, they'd be gone. I'd never see them again. I would never, ever see them again.
Yeah.
And, you know, like from what I already know about residential schools and what I know about Indigenous people, which I mean is only the tip of the iceberg, really. Like I keep learning every single day more and more things. And I mean, it's
for everybody.
It's mortifying.
Like learning is key. It's the key to making change. It's the key to stopping history from repeating itself. It's learning. It's not staring at a statue of John A. Macdonald in the lobby of something. That is not history. That is a bronze monument to a goddamn piece of shit human.
I'm like, a big old asshole. Like, it needs some spray paint. I want that. Makes it. It's like this. He gets the fur coat treatment. He just gets the like. Seriously, get the fuck out of here, Sir John A. Macdonald. I don't even want to spend your money. Fuck you.
Yeah, like it's like if people really want to like hold themselves accountable and help, like there's hundreds of resources to contribute back into like people having their own form of reconciliation, I guess you could say. Instead of like trusting the government to do it, because like this just in, if you're a fucking human being, you wouldn't be fucking suing Indigenous children and people for like trying to get what is owed to them.
For I say or more, they're not even getting what is. That's the thing. Like they're not even trying to. The thing that this is the thing that bothers me the most. Like they're not even trying to get like what's owed to them, because it's not even that's owed to them. They're owed so much more, and it's such shit.
100%.
And they're being
100%.
met with resistance with it. It's like such
Yeah.
fucking horse shit, and it's exactly what I would have expected. Isn't it like
yeah.
Like, why would I expect anything else?
Good old white settler colonialism.
Bullshit. It's alive and well. It's just, unfortunately, it's not well. Like, but there are, like, I mean, there are people who are more like woke to it. I remember we were sitting at the breakfast table the other day, and we were just talking about this, and Harrison like had questions and stuff, but we have to like explain it to a 6-year-old, and like that way you have to make it digestible for a child. And I mean, his teacher talks about it. They had a moment of silence in class. They all wore orange. Like, they're in grade 1, so they didn't really talk about it. She just said children were taken away to like live at a school. The residence residential refers to residents. They live there, and the kids are kind of like, they didn't go home. And they're like, why? And like, even the kids like didn't understand why. He's like, why weren't they allowed to go home to their parents? And the teacher was honestly like, I don't know.
Because that level of abuse and trauma is incomprehensible.
I don't know why they weren't allowed.
People. And it should be incomprehensible. Nobody should think it's okay. Like, oh my God. Where was it? There was a comment on Facebook that I thought I was going to lose my goddamn mind. There's one of those situations where you're like, I can't even engage this person because...
You can't, no. You're going to lose your entire day and get banned off Facebook.
Yeah, like legit. And she said something about, the comment was like, they weren't all, in all caps, abused.
They weren't all. Oh, here we go.
And I was just like,
oh no.
The minute you steal a human being from their family, you start the chain of abuse. So you can't for 10 seconds tell me that all of those children were not abused, because you started abusing them the day you removed them from their homes.
Every single one of those children was abused.
Every single one, and every generation to follow.
Absolutely. And every generation to follow suffered from it. Like, again, cyclically. They've all suffered. Oh.
It says it takes about something like 7 to 8 generations to remove intergenerational trauma with doing the actual work. Right? So that is
with the therapy put in, whether it's therapy, medication,
everything, right? Like that is
everything you need, any resource.
Yeah, it takes approximately 7 to 8 generations to phase out intergenerational trauma from a family.
Jesus.
So when you actually go back, it's only been like 7 generations for Indigenous people.
And it's been 7 generations.
There's 150 years is 7 generations.
Exactly. But it's only been like 7 generations of like not even like half-assing it. Like people doing anything for Indigenous people. It's like,
well, and that's the problem.
How do you start to heal?
You have to give people resources. You have to give them access to things that help them. And that's the other problem, is that with the accountability thing, the government of Canada knows that they're the fucking gatekeepers of resources for everybody.
Absolutely.
And they are constantly over gatekeeping resources from Indigenous people, be it through their land, through access to, like we've talked about before, clean drinking water, access to housing, access to medicine, all of that stuff. And it's like, here's an idea. Stop flying your flag at half-mast. It's an empty fucking gesture. Don't send me your fucking thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers aren't going to do anything.
Yeah. Release the resources to help this community heal. Stop fucking beating around the bush. You want to make it better? Fucking hold yourselves accountable for the shit that you have done to these people and continue to do to them today. Like,
well, and if they want to make it better, do it. Just don't fucking talk about doing it. Do it.
Yeah. Don't stand there with pieces of paper telling me how you're going to create a committee of people to do a thing, just do it.
And also, like, stop taking people that are not criminals to court. There's an idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
hot tip,
yeah.
motherfuckers. Like, if
don't sue victims and survivors of the trauma that you inflicted on them. That's fucked up.
People wonder why like victims and trauma survivors don't come forward when the last residential school to close was in 1996. So you think about the age of these people, and some of them, like a lot of people have come forward from like older generations of residential schools. I've seen a lot of people more in their 80s, and people that are like Rob's grandparents' age come forward about it, and it's like, I can hardly watch it because it's
I've seen
grandma sitting there talking.
I've seen some people as young as like their like mid 60s talk about it. So
that's so young.
Me and Tanya and Gord went to the thing they had in London.
Oh, with the laying of the shoes at the basilica.
At the yes. Yeah, we went to that, and Gord is a softie. And I think that's the difference. Like, well, even Tanya got emotional at times, and that's hard for her. And like,
sure,
we're people who definitely have that level of like anger, but also empathy. And one of the people who spoke, his father was a survivor of a residential school. And so this was the thing that this is the thing that it hit me like a ton of bricks. Sure. He was commenting that his father caught tuberculosis while he was at the residential school. Ooh. And because he was so sick and he almost died, he didn't serve a purpose for them because they had those kids working, right? They were doing, like, you saw, like, I think
he didn't serve a purpose?
Pictures. Yeah.
I've seen the pictures, but he didn't serve a purpose because he had tuberculosis. He was sick.
He was so sick that he almost died. So what can you do with the kid that's that sick, right?
Give him chicken noodle soup and put him to bed.
Oh. Except that it's a residential school. So instead you get beat if you don't do your work, right? So they sent him home because they can't have him getting the other kids sick, because if the other kids get sick, then they lose their workforce, right?
He went back home to his parents?
They sent him home because he had TB. Which also, by the way, puts tuberculosis into the indigenous community.
But I'm like, you just started the plague with thanks.
This is the thing that you have to think about. His father survived because he almost died. His father survived residential school because he almost died.
Almost died.
Like.
So what does it take to survive that hell? Is almost kind of going there yourself.
Yeah, like I was just like,
no.
What? Like,
yeah.
The level of like fuckery involved in the people that ran these fucking death camps. Absolutely. Let's just call them what they are. They're fucking
absolutely
death camps.
A work camp schools. And a death camp. It's a work camp and a death camp.
Yeah, they're fucking prisons with no means to an end except for work and death. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yep.
They're
and like
camps.
Embarrassment, starvation, all the things that kind of come along with that abuse.
100%.
All the other things that I've that are real, not the shit that they've spoon-fed you in school. Like, hey, everybody, we gave them fire water and they gave us land and it was a fair trade and everything was cool. Yippity-doo-dah, everything's fine. Like, that's not how it fucking happened. And there are still people out there walking around thinking that's how it happened and talking about it and telling people that that's how it happened.
Yep. And they
no,
but these are also the same people that think it's okay to label people with the stereotypes that they do.
Yep.
Like, it's the same people they're the same people would wear a full fucking headdress to Coachella, right?
Oh,
like,
fuck me,
because
they're like, go to Coachella,
right? They're just like, it looks cool. And it's
Well,
like,
I'm totally wearing feather earrings because they're like the best. I'm like, oh, are you? Like, for instance, I got a new pair of slippers, right? And they're leather and they've got cotton on them, right? Everyone's like, oh, are those moccasins? I'm like, no, they're house slippers, actually. I'm like, no,
yes.
they're not moccasins. There's fucking rubber on the bottom. They smell like cheese. There's cotton in them, and there's some kind of synthetic Halston series JC Penney Ultra Suede on them. No, they're fucking not moccasins. But thank you for asking. But I'm just gonna let you know
Right?
that I'm not gonna exploit anybody. Oh, but yeah, the headdress at Coachella thing's amazing, and like the feather earrings. I'm like, oh, girls.
Yeah.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, and every pronoun, because I seen y'all do it.
Right? Like,
I seen it. I see you on. I stalk your Instagram.
I'm still mortified to this day. There's all these corporations that want to do better.
Oh,
Here they don't. They see dollar signs, but they keep putting it out there like they want to do better. And it's just like,
sure.
If you want to do better, first of all, you need to apologize for all of the times that you have let this shit slide. Like, this just in, Spirit of Halloween, fucking stop selling Native American costumes.
Oh my God. Nobody is going out as Pocahontas. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Like, stop. Because also, their idea of a Pocahontas costume is a complete disgusting misrepresentation of the fact that she is a full-on missing and murdered Indigenous woman. Like, she was not this petite Naomi Campbell looking ass bitch in a little blue dress that was like painting with all the colors of the wind and talking to raccoons while beautiful leaves fly by her. No.
And you wonder why that movie was Disney's biggest flop.
Like,
anybody know what the actual financial flop that Pocahontas was for Disney? Because it was so bad.
I can imagine. Because it's
fucking
actually
horrible.
When you look back, when you go through, most Disney flop movies tend to involve women of color. Think about The Princess and the Frog.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Tiana, man.
Yeah.
Seriously? She wanted to open that fucking restaurant? Tiana,
Hunchback
you didn't know her name?
Notre Dame was wild.
Hunchback in Notre Dame? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That
Esmeralda.
Esmeralda.
Also, absolutely. Can we talk about how it's a beautiful representation of how the church treats poor people, people of color, disabled people? Like, the church came out in full fucking shining colors in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. They're like, this is our moment.
Oh my gosh. So I worked early in the day. I worked for this, speaking of like discriminating against people of anything. I worked back in the day for this dentist. Like, this is a long time ago when I first got out of school. And I mean, I haven't done that for years. And he was like a major Polish guy. And I think the only reason he hired me is because I was as Polish as I am. And he's like, okay, you come work for me. I give you $9 an hour. I'm like, fuck you, buddy. I can go to the mall and make more than that. I went to college, bitch. Right. So like, we negotiated a wage.
Pay me what I'm worth.
Bitch. But of course, like, I'm a woman and I'm Polish. So, and he's like, totally, there are woke men from over there, just like there are woke men from over here, and there are woke women from over here, and there are woke men from over there too. My culture is like the way like Eastern European culture is, like, a lot of the times, like, women aren't paid their worth. And that happens in, like, obviously, like, everyone's culture, women aren't paid their worth. So he didn't want to pay me.
But I remember second-class citizens constantly everywhere.
And then, like, you put anything else in the mix and it's like third class, fourth class, and what? So he was a dink and he was a bit of a chauvinist. And I remember one day saying something to him about like marginalized communities or something like that. I noticed that we didn't like have any patients of color. It was strange. And I remember one day saying something like to the like effect of, I said, I've never seen any of your patients, like Polish patients, come in here like from Poland that have developmental disabilities. And he's like, they won't let them immigrate. He's like, they leave them all over there. I'm like, he's like, they're of no use to anybody. And I was like, are you going to the mall later? Are you fucking serious? Like, I just sat there like during the procedure and I was like, he's like, zzz. I'm like, oh yeah. Are you kidding me right now? So, I mean, there are so many cultures that treat certain people, like, they're useless for, I'm not sure what reason.
No, it's
But
literally
they leave
just
them
because
by the wayside.
they don't fit
And
in the box that they think is success.
Well, but it seems like everybody just like rolls off the cuff, that it's just like so perfectly okay to leave certain anyone by the wayside and just kind of like sweep it under the rug. Like, it happened so long ago. It's like, you know, like even when Justin Trudeau like apologized for like being Aladdin and blackfacing up, he was just like, sorry. I was like, what? Did
well, so that is one of the things. Like, me and my sister had a conversation about like your blackface incident, and we were talking about. We were just like, it's like, how is it that you, as a woman who also has a platform, don't get me wrong, but you're not the leader of a country.
No.
But you have a platform. You
leader of 2 little children.
You have held yourself accountable. You have discussed what you want to do to get better and be better. And you've been actively educating yourself, attempting to gain the knowledge to do better, which I think is the huge part of doing that. And then this man, who is the leader of the country, gets caught not once, not twice, but what, 3 times? 3 times in blackface. And it's
that's only the times he was caught too. That's only the times that people had pictures.
He's just like, yo, like, I'm sorry. I would love to give you a better explanation of why I did stereotypical cultural appropriating bullshit things, but I gotta get back to the court where I'm blocking Indigenous people from getting any sort of fucking reconciliation in their lives. Deuces, like, go fuck yourself.
I got problems. Like, fuck you, true dope. I'd rather trust in judo than Justin Trudeau. Like, seriously. You're laughing so hard.
Like, I can't. I had so much hope when that man took over.
Oh, I didn't.
No, I did, in the sense that, like, he's such an idiot, but at the same time,
like, he's a substitute drama teacher. What's he gonna do? Oh, he legalized weed.
I'll take a fucking substitute drama teacher over Stephen Harper any day. But like, right? So the amount of diversity that he had when he first hired his cabinet and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Gave me the sliver of hope. That's what I'm talking about. But then I was just like, oh, why? Don't trust him. Don't let him bat those fucking eyelashes at you. Do not fall for it.
Nope, don't fall for those those cow eyes. He's like,
there he is a couple years later, and I'm just like, thank you. You just proved why I think you're a crap sack of a human.
And it shows up at a press conference looking like fucking Joaquin Phoenix, and I'm still here, fucking not apologizing to, not apologizing.
Exactly like that.
That's what he looks like. He looks like
legit that scraggly ass, like barely there beard, and his fucking messed up hair.
He's got like
and it's like he barely just rolled out of bed with a coffee and a cigarette. Yeah, and he's like, hold on, guys. Okay, I just want to talk to you guys today about Canada's dark historical past. And it's like, and then there's like a crowd of Indigenous people that's like, motherfucker, we're still here. Like,
yep. It's, how about Canada's Indigenous president? Would you care to discuss that, Mr. Trudeau? Oh my God, he's so bad, but he's horrible. Like, the way he conducts himself, he is just like, I don't give a fuck. He is like between two ferns. He doesn't give a flying fuck at all.
Legit. Which is also one of the reasons I love Jagmeet Singh.
Oh my God. I even follow him on TikTok. I love Jagmeet.
Right? He's the main man. He is somebody who very much peddles in accountability. He is one of the only parliamentary figures that was like, it's genocide.
Like flat out.
Yeah.
He's like, I asked Justin Trudeau for this. He said no. He didn't mince words.
He's like, what are you going to do what you did was cultural genocide, and he didn't call it Canada's dark past. He's like, this is what is happening here. Like,
yep,
I love him,
dude.
I love him.
Every time I hear Jagmeet Singh talk, you know what I've got in my head in the background? I've got Erin Neville in the background going, tell it like it is. Oh my God, don't be afraid. Just let your conscience be your guide. Okay. Yeah, because baby, my pride is too expensive. But seriously, like, Jagmeet is the shit. He doesn't mince fucking words at all. And people have shot at him for being like, oh, whatever, you're in bed with liberals. I'm like, oh, I think not.
No. Well, because anytime he's tried to make a deal with them.
Yep.
Anytime he's tried to make a deal with them.
Reason with them.
Yeah.
He's tried to reason with them.
They're like, cool, we'll work with you. And then they'll do something. And then he's, the minute, that's my other favorite thing about it, the minute the liberals fuck him over, he is on a mic being like, they did this and they did that, and I'm not taking the lies. He'll
make a TikTok video about it.
Yeah, he will call a motherfucker out from across the room. Like when he called that dude racist, like it's just like, what you're doing is racist, and they kicked him out of parliament? Like, what?
But that just shows you, like, we have our priorities all wrong. Like, our priorities are so wrong. And, like, Jagmeet Singh's, like, standing up, and he's a proud man, and he's fucking, you know what, fucking rocking a turban, fucking, like, rocking, like, the other day I watched a TikTok video of him doing a fucking warrior knot.
Yeah.
He was telling me, like, saying how his mom would do it in females, like, females in the particular where he was living, were these strong, badass, like, fucking women that we're teaching the men how to be warriors. It wasn't a lot of the men. It was these badass women. And that goes back to like a lot of these Disney movies where they have these badass like warrior women flop. I will tell you one that did not, and I saw it yesterday, Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh yeah, that's the new one, isn't it?
And I don't want to ruin it for anybody because it's just come out on Disney Plus. But when it comes to strong warrior, like women of color, I was sitting in front of the movie because it was like so hot yesterday. And I was like, kids, they had to swim in the morning. But I was like, let's have a family movie day and kind of like have a day off and put our feet up. So let's put this on. Because like Scarlett, I want her to watch strong women. I want my son to watch strong women. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're into it. And especially women of color, because every person of that film was of color, which was amazing. What a stunning Disney film about how the world and everyone needs to work together for one common thing to kind of be together, how like we're all neighbors, but it was all driven around these warrior women that were women of color, and it is going to be a fucking smash. My kids have already watched it 8 fucking times. Finally, this is like a Disney princess. This is gonna fucking explode.
I'm into that because like, so I loved Mulan.
Yes.
And it also wasn't super successful.
It wasn't, but my kids, I will tell you, that's one that they want to watch. That's one that they like. They will not watch Pocahontas. Well, I don't want them to watch Pocahontas, but...
I think one of my other weird things that I love about Mulan is probably Eddie Murphy's dragon character.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Christina Aguilera.
No. But,
you don't want to get dirty? You guys getting dirty! You don't want to? Really?
I don't have enough leather chaps at home. Just don't have enough chaps.
I'm gonna put on stripped later and just
get down.
Or the kids have to go to sleep. I'm gonna have to sweat until my clothes come off. Till 6 a.m. Oh, but no, this movie is gonna blow the fuck up, and I think that it's going to like bring out like dolls and like, so like when I buy my kids, like for instance, like dolls, they don't have a bunch of like white Barbie dolls lying around. They got like Mulan, they've got Moana, they've got Boo, they've got Snow White, they've got, they got a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
Because like that's what they watch. Like I don't remember being a kid and having any of that like diversity like in toys. I think these things with kids are going to help blow it up too. Do you remember?
Well,
what do you remember?
I feel like, that's another thing I think that when I talked about corporations holding themselves accountable, it's like there's so many toy companies that can do better on representation, plain and simple. Because think about it, for years, Barbie was just the white broad that was doing everything and doing it all. And then
Barbie was based on a hooker.
Yeah, it was like mid 80s. She got a black friend, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, Christy.
So she was a white hooker lady. She was a white hooker lady who didn't get a black friend until the 80s.
Yeah.
So your girls are taking like nods from white hooker ladies because she was invented by a woman who invented her after a comic. So the 80s was when she got a black friend.
Yeah, I want to say it was the early 80s because I remember
it took that long.
I'd have to look it up for sure, but I do not remember ever seeing a black Barbie until the like early 80s. I want to say it was, and her name was Christy. I think her name was Christy, and
okay.
She had like Beyonce hair. It was like you know when Beyonce was a Destiny's Child and her hair was like kind of like that like
she had like corkscrew curls.
Yeah. It was like that, but it was longer. Hair. But they really can't corkscrew. Like, they couldn't corkscrew, so it was like more like a crimped look.
Yeah, it was like a long perm. I don't know.
Yeah.
My sister had a perm wear kids.
It's cruel. We black people use perm solution to help straighten their hair.
Well, white people use it because they're stupid. Who the fuck goes and gets a perm? What are you, 80? What are you, 80?
So many friends. That's another one of those things where I'm just like, love us like you love the culture. Like please. Everybody out here getting spiral perms when I was a teenager, and I'm like,
oh,
how come you're out here getting a spiral perm, but when I wear my hair down, people are like, oh, it's just so like, what's going on here? It's like,
oh, it's just such a mess.
This is what you paid $120 for. I'm growing naturally. That's what's going on here. Is that you're getting ripped off.
It was a stupid one. Exactly. Who was born yesterday? You were clearly. Oh God, people like, but I don't remember a lot of like even like as far as because I kind of played with like I was a tomboy, so I played with like a lot of like boy toys, but only one of the Ghostbusters was black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my sister had some dolls. I remember. They were called Cherry Mary Muffin. She was like much younger than me, and like obviously
weird strawberry shortcake ripoff.
It was, and they smelled really good. There was like banana muffin, and there was Cherry Mary Muffin, and they had a black girl, and her name was Chocolati, and I'm like, of course it was, and of course she was that one. So I remember like my mom would not buy it for my sister. My mom's like, that's racist. Like I remember her saying it in Zellers. And like saying it like quietly, like because that is totally my mom's way. She wouldn't be like, "That's racist." Like she's not like I am. Like my dad.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not us.
My dad would probably say it really loud, but my mom would not. But she'd acknowledge it. So my sister's like, "Oh, can I have this girl?" My mom, like, as much as she wanted her to have a black doll to play with, she's like, I am not buying you a fucking doll called Chocolati. That's not fucking happening. Like, that's not happening. And then as far as like action figures and like video games and toys went, there weren't a lot of them. Like in the Ghostbusters, there weren't a ton. There weren't tons in like Ninja Turtles and figure like action figure lines like that. There hasn't been a great representation of too many strong black characters. I mean, Black Panther was
okay. I lived. So it's so funny because people talk about like they're like, yeah, Black Panther was good. And I'm like, if you like go back and you look, there are a couple of things that they did. I think it was Jimmy Fallon had some of his black audience members come and talk to T'Challa as a cutout and tell them how Black Panther impacted them. And Chadwick Boseman was hiding behind it, right? So you had like a mother and a son who were like just talking about how they felt like it gave them power. It showed their people, like it was all these really touching moments about black joy, like straight up black joy, and feeling seen and feeling heard, and being like a little black kid being able to be like, that's me, like that's me.
I'm that superhero. Right? Yep.
And like, so when it came out, like so many people within the Marvel universe just look at it and they're like, oh yeah, like it's a really good flick. It is, but it was so much more to people who have little to no representation in things like the comic book world. Like, do you know how many people lost their goddamn mind over the Miles Morales Spider-Man? Like,
really?
Don't get mad because a black person can be Spider-Man too. Like,
they lost their mind over that. That's actually one of my favorite iterations of Spider-Man.
Oh my god, Into the Spider-Verse
is so good.
Dope as hell. Like, it's so good. Like,
oh my god, that would be something to be sitting around watching with my fucking husband, because that's his favorite too, and it's also our son's favorite iteration of Spider-Man. The other ones he like can't get into, but Into the Spider-Verse, our 6-year-old's like, yep, I can watch this. He fucking loves it, and people shit on it. Oh,
yeah, it's really weird because also I think there's a lot of people who their fandom is based on like just seeing trailers of things and getting sucked in and really loving like the visual aspect of the comic book world, and not as like, excuse me, I'm a fucking nerd and a total geek, but like a lot of us, like, I'm fully invested.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Well, I mean, and like you saw me, I nerded out in your husband's man cave with all his toys and stuff, remember?
Oh, he's got us. They're behind this spacey backdrop.
Like, I love that shit. I like have watched a couple of his toy show things. Like, I'm fully invested. And so like when I think that when that part of the fandom sees something that they don't know about exists, like a lot of people don't realize the vast size of the Spider-Verse, like how many quote unquote Spider-Mans there are because of the multiverse that exists within Marvel, right?
Which is within Marvel.
Yeah, and they just think like, oh, Spider-Man is Peter Parker.
But it's like people that don't do their homework about residential schools or marginalized communities. They just see one little part that they want to see and don't look at the multiverse of everything else.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge reason why some people just can't take accountability, and they think that things are cancel culture, right? They think that people are switching the game up because they're like, oh, everybody's so offended that this character was white, so now they're trying to make it a black person, and they're like, no, but even if that was the case, who cares?
Who cares?
It's an imaginary, it's an imaginary character, and unfortunately, whether you like it or not, representation matters. Like,
exactly,
it's not fair that you get a classroom of children and say like 10 of them are white and the other 10 of them are black and the other 15 are white, and you start learning about these fantastic doctors that have done all these wonderful things and these astronauts that have done all these wonderful things, and everybody's looking at them and they're just white people.
All of them are white. Yep. White. Oh, are you explaining what it was like to go to school for me? Because that's what it sounds like.
It was for a long time, right?
Oh, fuck. For a long time, I was like, in public school, because that's what they taught.
Yeah. Like, I did.
Everything was like Neil Armstrong, Roberta Bondar.
Yeah. I didn't grow up with a whole lot of representation when I was young. I can
imagine.
And then it's like, as I got older, I got to see things like all those black women that ran the STEM program that helped get those astronauts into space, and they were women of color. And it's like, oh, so I didn't get to deserve to know that these grand white astronauts that got their asses launched into space got put there by black women.
Oh yeah, they completely did. Like, they talk about people like the great and powerful Oz and like the people working behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was just a giant team of like exceptionally intelligent, beyond intelligent black women.
Yeah. So it's things like that. And it's like, well, that representation matters. And you should know, if you're teaching a classroom full of diverse children, you need to make sure that you have a key figure in history that represents each and every one of them. That's
absolutely.
I think that,
my
and that
child's go on.
I was gonna say, and I think that that's a thing that, like, if schools want to change their level of like how they interact with children, especially in regards to diversity, that would be holding themselves accountable and trying to do better, is working on those sorts of things. Like, I get it that Canadian history is really super white, but there are key historical moments and figures, and even to this day, full of people of color, Indigenous, Black, Asian, across the board, that Canada can pull up and be like, this person contributed in this way to change our country, to create.
Put them on a stamp.
Yeah, like, oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Like, they finally put like Viola Desmond on a fucking $10 bill, but like, still, like,
that took kind of a bit.
Dude, it took them forever to pardon the woman. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's bullshit. It's
bullshit. Like it is.
But I mean, this is unfortunately how it works. I mean, well, how it doesn't work, really. It doesn't work for anybody.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything to fix the deep systemic problems that this country has, that they need to be held accountable for.
Well, yeah, and it's so deep rooted that like, how do you even begin to pull those roots? But like, I think, like I say, like, step one is a very small step, and just accountability, just that in general.
Yeah.
And learning.
It's like, admit your wrongdoing, actually apologize, not just with words, but with action. Do you know what I mean? Because anybody can say, I'm sorry, but your sorry has a whole lot more meaning if you throw the weight behind it of doing the work to prove that you're apologetic, right? And I think
exactly, like, pack it with a fucking punch. Why don't you? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're gonna do something, don't like half-ass it. Like, give it your full ass's attention. But seriously, like, don't screw around. Why would you?
I have no idea why anybody.
Like, why would you?
Like, there's so many people who are just like, well, that's buried in the past. Let's just leave it there. It's like, yeah.
And sure,
that's fine.
A lot of people are comfortable with that.
That's fine. I'm not going to, like, it's not, and that's takes you back to that whole cancel culture thing. It's like, if you find dirt on somebody from their past, you don't need to like constantly rub it in their face. You can take that information to them and be like,
to that person.
Yeah, you can be like, because that's the other thing. If you care about racism, don't send Black people things that you think white people did wrong. I'm not your fucking keeper, right? Like, that pissed me off more than anything. Like,
that pisses me off. Like, do you not understand that maybe, let's say you weren't my friend and I didn't know you from Adam and you were just my token Black person on my podcast. You know what I mean? Wouldn't she think, as an anti-racist, that would be potentially triggering for someone of color?
That's the point. People, that's a huge thing that people need to understand. Do not inundate your Black friends with the mistakes that you see other white people do. You're a white person, go fucking talk to them.
Sure. And I'm sure they'll probably react a little bit better, because that's one thing I do find when people do get like caught, as I like to call it, with their pants down. Oh, that fucking I'm not a racist, but all that like defensive mode comes out, and then the walls go up, and then it's like, I didn't do it, like, I can't be held accountable for this, and then there is no accountability, and it's just like backstepping, they're doing like the back step, they're going like 10 steps back.
Yeah 100%. Yeah,
I think if they could get to the end point quicker, there wouldn't be such a problem, instead of like dancing about and like trying to like run away from it. Why don't you
Yeah.
just like tackle it, acknowledge it, grab it, own it, and then you're at the end point. Then figure out what you're going to do from there, I think.
Yeah. It's absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's a process. Everything is a process.
Sure.
Becoming anti-racist is a process, and it involves a lot of work. Like
Absolutely.
becoming a feminist, especially if you're a man, is a process, and it takes a lot of work to acknowledge misogynistic behavior, like being any sort of contributor to that patriarchy, like all that stuff, right?
Sure, like
Those
the
are
toxic
all,
masculinity a lot of
yeah,
men have
like,
been raised in. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all a very long and arduous process, and
It
like
is
you say, work.
it is, yeah, it is back-breaking work. Like, I even think about like being a single mom to a boy.
Sure.
Most of the energies around my son, I guess you could say, are feminine energies, because the only real males he has in his life, like obviously he has his dad, and
Yeah,
then
sure.
he has Justin, who's gay, and then he has
Yes.
like um like Journey's fiance and Gord, right? And
Okay.
these are all the men in his life, like, and Noah, sorry, he's his
But all
cousin
the men in
Noah.
his life are like nice, like
Yeah,
sensitive men. He
yeah,
doesn't have any
they're,
like weird toxic men in his
which is
life.
also, by the way, they're all men outside of Dally and Justin raising girls, right? Like
Oh
Gord raised
yeah.
Journey, Noah has a
Yep.
daughter,
He has
Dylan is
girls.
raising two girls. Like,
Yep.
so it's like this weird sort of like Carter's constantly surrounded by feminine energy. So
That's good.
it's like I don't have a great fear of him having that whole sort of misogynistic, toxic masculinity issue. But at the
Yeah,
same
I'm not
time,
worried about that either. But
I'm I'm hyper aware that it only takes meeting the wrong person with the right charm to flip
yep.
a switch in a person.
Yep, getting
Right?
in with the wrong crowd. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
fall in with the wrong crowd, whether it's like kids doing drugs or smoking cigarettes or whatever the fuck they're doing now, but also getting in with the wrong crowd and getting into that belief system and getting into
Yeah.
that mindset and being so brainwashed
Yeah.
that all your parenting and all your good thoughts just went right out the fucking window.
Yeah.
Like I
And
don't
also,
necessarily worry about the misogyny like as well too because Harrison is raised by us and I mean and he's not obviously he's got a very feminine energy but like Rob is very as you know he's very in touch with his feminine side and he's the last person to be patriarchal or
yeah, he's a
very
gentle and empathetic human being, which I think is
he
a
is a gentle
key,
being.
it's a key factor, I think, in like killing that whole like I'm a man vibe, right?
Exactly,
And
because he's like, I'm a man and I cry. I'm a man and I sometimes I sob, you know, I'm a man and I have feelings. Like, and so
yeah,
are you, you know?
yeah.
And it's
It's
cool to cry. Like,
yeah. Well, it's like who has the fucking strength, time, or energy to hold on to
ooh,
that?
that shit is not
Like,
good for you in every
right?
organ in your body, no matter
It
what
is
belief system you have.
like
Don't hold that shit in.
emotionally crippling. It just like it
No.
changes you too, right? Like when you hold on to that like garbagey feeling emotionally. That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons that I really limit my internet fighting with people,
Oof.
because
Yeah,
it steals my joy. And
it
like
does.
I'm sure you've heard that like black joy is a thing. Like
Yes.
for decades of like our ancestors like singing in the cotton fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is like that is the black joy, right? Like that is like they are fully aware that at any moment they could get beat, at any moment, you know, massa could come in the night and like ruin you, like, and
Torch
so
you,
like
send you
yeah,
away.
so during the day while they are picking and they are out under the sun, they sang their hymns, and that is like that small moment of black joy, right?
That's like
Like
right in your heart, in your soul, like where you're happy.
yeah, and
Hmm.
it's like that has come all the way down the pipeline to just the things like the cookouts, right? The
Yes, like soul
dancing,
food and the
yeah,
dancing.
the
Yeah.
dancing
And
in the
that is
streets, like
part of Black Joy.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I think that everybody has like a thing of joy that they have for themselves, not necessarily culturally like we would,
Sure.
but like, yeah, like I think that women have like, there's like a feminist joy in the idea that like, guess what? You know what? I'm not fucking putting a bra on today. I'm not going to shave my goddamn armpits, and I'm going to go to
Fuck
the beach
this.
in a fucking bikini. I don't care what I look like. This is my
Exactly.
joy, right?
Because everybody belongs in a bikini, bitch. I don't
Yeah,
give a fuck.
exactly.
My summer
Exactly.
body is whatever the fuck I say it is.
Yeah, yeah. Guess what? It ain't hot girl summer. It's you get what I fucking give you summer. Like
Summer.
that's
So
what the summer is.
breathe it in, bitch. Breathe
That's
deep,
right.
baby.
Take it all in. That's right. I'll make it rain
Oh
on these
fuck.
hoes.
Oh my god. Well, I'm like always outside like barbecuing. So I'm like, take it in, neighbors. I'm like just barbecuing like normal meat for my family and then shitty plant weird based stuff for myself. Well, it's not shitty, but you know that I've had to have a recent diet change and it's been
Yeah.
interesting given my upbringing of meatiness.
I do know all about your meatiness. Like, yeah, like you like right off the bone, like barbecue sauce, having ass, like it's your old days. You're different
that is
now.
that was my actual joy, like smoker joy. Like I think there's people that barbecue and like love grilling. I think there's like a community of us girls who grill or something. I think it's a hashtag.
I
I just
believe it because
enjoy.
I even think back to Mercedes too, right? Like when she had her smoker in her
She
backyard.
loves it. She still smokes. She smokes, like she'll
Yeah.
smoke a turkey. Like I'm smoking a ham tonight. I'm smoking a ham tonight.
You were smoking when I was talking to you the one day because you sent me pictures of your like wood chips and your things that you had on your
Yeah.
rack. Like, yeah,
I was like, I'm smoking these thick ass pork chops for the fam. You're like, what are you smoking for you? I'm like, tofu. You're like, that sounds exciting.
I get it though. There's a plant
Like, you
life.
can't digest anymore. So it has come down to this. It is only plants. Last night I had a chicken sandwich and it was the shit. I'm not going to lie. It
Okay,
was awesome.
so when you come to Stratford, there
Yeah.
are things that I have to like A give you and B that we have to go to. So there is a plant-based like sort of catering lady here. She
Oh,
delivers like
neat.
whole meals that are all plant-based. And
What?
so she makes these burritos. I don't know if Mercedes told you about them because I've got them for
Oh,
her
no.
before. So
Uh-oh.
they're like scrambled tofu, black
Mm.
beans, like chopped like tomato onion. Like it's like a breakfast burrito, but
Yeah, she just like puts the
with
pico on there and stuff.
all plant based. No, so it's wrapped
Oh,
in foil, so you can either bake it in the oven or you can unwrap it and you can do it like 2 minutes on each side because they come frozen in the
oh
microwave.
shit.
And then I dress it with like shredded cheddar and like salsa and like
Mm.
a dollop of sour cream, and I just like go through it kind of like Prince Al style or whatever. But like,
Oh my God.
dude, it's
I
all
would
plant based.
probably deep fry it.
So it's all plant based. So like, if you come around or if I get to come to London, I will bring you some of these burritos
Oh
because,
God.
girl,
My
I
life's gonna
love
be in
them.
trouble.
And then there's a place here called Planet Diner, and
Okay.
it is a vegan diner, and they make burgers, chicken sandwiches, mac and cheese, like they make
Everybody, go
donuts.
get your fucking vaccine so I can fucking go to eat vegan food in the Strat, you motherfuckers. I need vegan travel food essential. Like this is essential. You
Yeah,
fucks.
yeah, and
Fuck.
they got
I have
all that
been
stuff.
supporting Zen Gardens. Have you ever had them in London when you've been in town?
I think like once, like years ago though, like when they first opened up, because I don't
We
eat
have
like
these.
what is it?
They have vegan fritters, dude.
Oh,
I like
the
or
diner place makes those. They make
oh,
their own. Yeah.
and they taste like fried chicken. I'm like I can't even tell. They're so good. They nail it so hard. I'm like I don't know what the fuck this is, but I'm gonna eat the shit out of it. And then I'll make like vegan gravy to have like with it or something good because I'm like that's what I'm missing. Like things that taste like meat and the texture and stuff, right? And then one of my other girlfriends was like, yo, you got to get into like different kinds of mushrooms and stuff. I'm like, not like the weird ones, right? And she's like, no, not like the weird ones.
No, because like you can make like portobello patties and like so I'll actually hold on, I'll pull it up. So
See this.
if you go on Facebook,
Yeah.
the woman sometimes delivers to London. Her name is Dawn's Plant Based, I think is what it's called. I'll have to check for sure because Plant Based and Ready. Sorry,
Plant Based and Ready?
Called. Yeah. And so she makes
Plant Based and Ready.
Yeah, she makes all plant-based foods, and like she sends out a weekly menu. You pick what you want. Ooh. She makes like African peanut stew. She makes these stuffed pasta shells. They make their own like plant-based ricotta.
That's and ridiculous. It's like with cashews or
I think it's cashews based. And so it's like stuffed ricotta cheese and spinach in these shells, and then they make their own homemade spaghetti sauce that is dope as hell. And
I'm missing the cheese, baby.
She makes spicy. She makes spicy nacho cheese. Like for like.
Oh no.
The dipping.
For dipping those, like because I buy charas, like it's coming out the wazoo, and now my youngest, you get like a stack of charas. And they come like those corn tortillas, and they're like really crispy. You get like spicy ones, you can get jalapeno ones. They're always in the international food section, where I do most of my shopping. And I haven't been in a grocery store since forever, but that's wherever the Instacart person does it.
I know what you're talking about.
I can't, like, dude, it's fucking scary. People in my city are not fucking responsible, unfortunately. And you
you already saw our anti-mask or anti-vax protest was one of the biggest ones in Ontario.
Yeah, and then they come into a town that has no cases, and it's like, oh, why are you afraid to go out? Like, I'm wearing a mask. I understand masks don't work. I'm 1 dose into vaccine. Like, I understand this. Do I still understand that I can catch coronavirus? Yes, I do. Understand that I can catch it.
Yeah.
I think people think that people are stupid. Be like, masks don't work. I'm like, no, it's not that masks don't work. It's that people think that they can get vaccinated and hang out. Like, it's just going to stop your immune system immediately and you're immune to coronavirus. I know people are like, hey, I got vaccinated today and then I went and hung out with my friends and we went fishing. I'm like,
okay, well, the other thing is like, you know what? On day one, you're not suddenly full of antibodies. It's not how it works. Journey caught COVID after her first vaccine.
Oh, she works in long-term care, correct?
Yeah, so she got tested. She was getting tested like every week, I think it was. And so
frequently.
She got vaccinated, and then she had a COVID test the day after she got vaccinated, I think it was. And then her next test the week after that came back positive.
Wow. So do you think it was like latent, like dormancy of the virus, like in her body from the shot, or
because apparently
exposed?
They say that like you can't catch COVID from the vaccine, which makes sense because they're not injecting you with a live virus. It's not a live virus, right?
It's not a live vaccine.
Exactly. You could only catch it if it was live, right?
It's like if it was something like rotavirus, you can get it. That is a live vaccine that you get. They give to babies. They give it orally. You get that stuff on your hands, you'll shit forever.
I know, because it almost killed my kid. And then it almost killed Dally, and then it almost killed me. Because the three of us. So it was either that or Noro. Because so Carter got real sick. They never told us what happened or what was wrong with him. But he was, I don't know what you call it, but in our family we call it bathroom floor sick. Where you have to lay on the bathroom floor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to lay on the bathroom floor because you don't know what end stuff is going to come out of. So you just have to be near the toilet or the bathtub in order to figure yourself out. Right.
Like you got to put your bum on the toilet and then puke into the bathtub, style.
Yeah. Or into a garbage can. Yeah. Whatever is closest. You just have to grab a thing and puke in it while everything expels out both ends. Right.
So, and it's barfaria total.
It would have been April about 6 or 7 years ago.
Sure.
Carter Carter was fine all day, and then it hit to be about 10 o'clock at night. And he comes out, stumbling out of his room, and I'm like, you don't look so hot. Like, what's going on? And he's just like, I don't feel good. And I'm like, oh. He's like, I think I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, okay, well, run to the bathroom. He made it to the door frame, and he like projectile vomited across the bathroom.
Oh, and that's how it starts.
Right? And then I heard this noise come out of him. And I was like, oh my God, get on the toilet. Because you could like hear his insides like churning. Yeah. And all
it's like Zool is inside of you from Ghostbusters.
It just started coming out of both ends on him. And I'm like, oh my God. So there's puke everywhere. And I'm like walking in it because it's the only way I can like get to him while he's like dumping out of every hole in his body. He's got like
he's evacuating his cavities.
He's got tears, there's snot, there's vomit, and then he's like, the whole back end of him is like spraying everywhere because he's like so hot and like overwhelmed that he's like sliding forward off the toilet. So it's like shooting out him like a rocket. He's like a really disgusting man cat, like just shooting shit rainbows.
Spraying.
Right? And then he like, I'm like, okay, we need to get you in the shower and like hose you down.
Totally.
So he stands in the shower and I like wash him off and like I'm like a whole roll of paper towel. I'm like scooping and absorbing the vomit that's on the floor while he's like sitting on the shower chair, like, ugh. And like I get him all dried off and I get him out and I turn around for 2 seconds to grab something and I just hear this like noise and I'm like, I turn back around, he fainted. Like
from barfing and shitting so much?
Yeah, like passed out on the floor and I was like, oh my God. So I called Gord. I'm like, oh my God, Carter passed out. He's shitting and vomiting everywhere. Like, oh, I don't know what to do. And like Gord's like, I'll be there in a minute. So he like speeds over and we like carry his like corpse out to the car. He's just like, bleh, bleh. Like he doesn't have anything in him. So he's just like constantly like reflex gagging, right? Well, he's
they do that like dry heaving thing.
Yeah. And it was like
fuck
nonstop. And like your bathroom floor is sick when you take your kid to the triage and you put him on a chair and he's like, I just want to lay on the cold floor. And you're like, ew, it's the hospital! Don't lay on the hospital floor! But he does, because he doesn't listen.
Well, because kids listen so awesome.
And then he spent a day, like he spent from like 1 o'clock in the morning to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day in the hospital. They dumped 5 bags of IV fluids into him. They put an adult diaper on him and just like basically like laid him on top of this like adult diaper because he was so sick he couldn't get up. And every time he'd like cough or gag, like poo would shoot out of him. And I feel bad because I'm laughing at this was years ago, obviously. And it's like every mother.
Stories are so funny.
Every mother has that moment where their kid shits on everything and they're like, so this is my life now. This is why I gave birth to you so that you could drop your fucking corn nugget diarrhea all over everything. Because that was also back when all he ate was like corn, cauliflower, and ham every day because that's the only thing he wanted. So there's like corn on everything.
No, but it's true. You say like every mom has a shit story, like with their kids, and it happens. Like then yours happened with like getting like that sick. My son shit on me many times. Like there's been some shit and different things, but like when I talk about like taking the cake for shit stories, my daughter takes that big shitty cake and she all we were doing like sitting in the delivery room and it's quiet and I was having my birth recorded because of course I was, and it was Scarlett's fairy godmother Kyla, and she's also like a cinematographer. She does a lot of work with Rob and stuff, so she's just quiet as a little mouse, just filming everything. I'm like, oh God, this is going to traumatize her from birth. My birth was like so quiet with Scarlett, which is surprising because she's so loud. All of a sudden the nurse is like, Muconium. And I was like, what? I'm like, did that kid just take a shit inside of me?
That was like the precursor to like.
We knew what was fucking coming down the
I
pipe
get
when
it.
your kid shits in you.
Yeah, I
That's
get it.
the spirit.
I get it. Carter was born face up. Remember? So like he was born face
was
up because he was like,
hello.
"Yo, I'm here to wreck shit."
I just came here to fuck shit up.
Yeah,
I'm
sort of
here
at your
for
back, not really.
I don't care. Well, she came out so easy. Like her birth was like so, except for the shitting experience, her birth was super easy. Like I like, well, because my first baby was like a C-section because it was like an emergency, and then
Yeah.
Harrison was like that was easy. The recovery sucked, but then having a baby after that, it was like, oh, I had her, and then they weighed her and she was all good and she didn't swallow any meconium and she didn't aspirate. She was healthy and everything. They handed her off, and then the nurses came and juiced me. I was not
Oh, did
ready
it give
for
you the
that.
whole like the whole like massage like inside and out?
It wasn't even like I didn't even know what that was. Like I felt like this woman was killing me. She was putting her whole body on me to try to like get it out. I'm like, because they say like it's like what happens after you have a baby? What comes out then? Like it's their house. Like
Yeah, like all the stuff.
Legit. Yeah. Like I've seen like Ali Wong. She's like one of my favorite like comedians.
She's
And she was
so
talking about
funny.
she was saying that after she had a baby, like all this shit came out. She's like, it was like a college kid. Then she said that like her fucking like lava lamps were coming out of her vagina and like black light posters. And she like cleaned out her whole fucking dorm room. She's like one of those like pregnant comedians that's just like hilarious because she's not out talking about like how much of a horror she is because she's pregnant. Because it's just like
so
she's
funny.
Hysterical. Like she's just like talking about like
so
the realness that is being pregnant and like
yeah.
You know, motherhood and shit. She's fucking funny. Oh, she's a
so
dragon
good.
lady. I love Ali Wong.
Yeah.
That's one person I can like I can't get sick of. Every time they're like she's like, I'm gonna do a special. I'm like, her or like Margaret Cho. I like her
I
a
love
lot
Margaret
too.
Cho as well. Oh my god.
I've
So
seen
good.
her on way too much Ronald McDonkey stuff lately. Like he'll put her face on something amazing and then she'll put it on her page. Like he'll put her head on like some guy's body, like in full like bondage gear, and she'll be like, "Thanks, Ronald McDonkey," and he does it really well. That's an Instagram. Like, if you need to just like follow something silly, there's this guy on Instagram, and his name is Ronald McDonkey, and he puts like celebs' head in the most ridiculous situations, but his photoshopping is good, and like the celebs will put it on their page.
Dope.
Like,
clearly,
like,
oh. Yo, of course I am, because like I live.
Donkey. Oh no!
Oh, got him.
Yep.
Oh my god! Holy shit! Oh my god! This Ryan Reynolds in the fucking mullet. Jesus Christ!
But they're fairly seamless, like the way they're edited, right? Like
I'm dead.
They're pretty good. See, like
oh my god, this fucking Whoopi Goldberg one with the fucking.
I haven't seen that one yet. Her ass is so good.
It's like sicko-less. All day, every day. This is my screensaver. Fucking. It's for like over a year now. I've had my screensaver be like a picture of like my fucking manga boyfriend.
Yes, yeah, I know that.
And like
that was your screensaver, like literally the last time I saw you before we got locked down the first time.
That's because I love him. He's putting a cigarette out on his tongue.
It's
but like it's stuff, but not anymore because it's about to be Whoopi Goldberg dropping it in a thong.
She's dropping like it's fucking hot there.
Oh,
Whoopee!
So hot.
Isn't that amazing?
I can't. Oh my god, greatest.
You're gonna have fun on that Instagram, I think.
Greatest.
I have a feeling it's hot outside. It might be busier afternoon. It's like I have the kids. I'm like, I'll take you swimming after lunch. We'll go swimming. We'll have pizza. Everything will be good. I'm like, but stay out of like the direct sun because it's like SPF 5 million right now. It's like not a good time to be in direct heat.
Stupid hot out. I don't know how. So this is a thing that I know that me and some of my relatives have talked about. How do you white people survive in the sun? Because like,
I puked yesterday.
And there you have it.
From cutting the grass. So this is what the Black community would like to know. White people do not survive in the sun. We wither up because we're actually horrible vampire people. And we go and puke. Like Rob was sick yesterday. I was sick. The kids are like they wanted to pass out at like
everybody had heat stroke.
It was pretty much like we were like chugging water trying to like get better. And that's kind of like how we dealt with that. So I'm like, today we're going to be a little bit more responsible and mindful of the sun and its power, because it's like it baked us. Like last night I sat out on the balcony, just like on the porch, just for a little bit on the back porch while it was like, like 7-8 o'clock, because it was quieter then and it wasn't like the sun wasn't so intense.
That's when I yeah, the temperature dropped like 7 degrees by then.
Yeah, and it's like funny because like our neighbors on the one side are like also Polish. So like that's when they come outside too.
Because they know it's not safe.
They know they're gonna get a sunburn and sunstroke. And I saw like the one gentleman with red on the cheekies, and I was like, uh-oh. Look at your cheeks. You're going to puke later. I know it.
You guys are like, oh, you know that fucking movie with Josh Hartnett? What is it? It's like they're way up in the fucking Arctic and they're about to get their God. 6 months of night and the vampires come for them because they're like, this is perfect because everything is dark. That's Polish people.
10 days. It was like 10 days of night.
Yeah,
all the vampires came and they were like so white. 50 days of night. That's what it was called. 50 days of night or whatever it was. Yes, I totally remember that. And all the vamps come and they're like so white. They're like screeching at each other. That's like literally like Polish people. Super white, yelling at each other, screeching with their weird language, like coming for people in the nighttime. This is, you know what? I make no apologies. I can't speak. I'm going to say this. I can't speak for all Polish people because I'm probably going to get in trouble for this one too. With this Polish lady, I'm like those vampires in however many days and night they had there. Because I'm always hiding from the sun.
Like legit, like the way you just described your like sneaking out onto the porch at this time of night thing. I'm like, immediately that's what popped in my head. I'm like, it's like those vampires from that movie.
It's true. Like, it's honestly true.
We need to survive, so let's go where it's going to be night for days.
Yeah, I function better like in the evening time. I just do. Like in the day I'm good. When at night I'm just a little bit calmer because there's just a little less sun in my face and in my glasses.
A little less rage being fueled by the heat of 1,000 suns.
I know, it's like all that vitamin D making me all pissed off. I'm like commenting on the internet. At nighttime I'm just like, I'm just going to watch an Oliver Stone movie or watch Twin Peaks and fall over. I'm just tired. I'm going to eat some vegan food and fall asleep. I'm going to play beard oil roulette or, something like along those lines, something calming. Yeah,
that's right.
I finally got back to beard oil roulette. That was my joy.
Your joy.
Everyone finds their own joy. Where are they going to find your joy on Instagram these days?
Same as usual. Just at teedshirts.canada. I'm going to change that. I want no association with this country at this point. But
I don't want to celebrate. I'm not celebrating Canada Day, so I'm just putting it there.
No, it should be. And that's like, hey, Justin Trudeau, if you want to fucking work yourself up to good accountability, make it a day of mourning.
Absolutely.
Literally make Canada Day a day of mourning. Make it the acknowledgement that you burst onto this fucking land, swindled a bunch of Indigenous people out of their property, their livelihood.
You lied.
You fucking created a historically massive genocide that you continue to this day. get off your ass, respect your fucking treaties, give the land back, and do the fucking right thing. That's what Canada Day should be about. Yeah,
exactly, and that's when I can be, as a Canadian or whatever, which I don't want to call myself right now.
Yeah,
that's when I can be proud of this country. That's when things can start. I'm proud of, like, when they want to take steps in the right direction. And I know that you don't want to be like appropriated and like associated with Canada. I think your page is so important when people follow it on Instagram, not just for your t-shirts and stuff, especially like in your stories. You're doing like a ton of education and a ton of work and a ton of research to find articles or interviews with certain people. And a lot of the people that you follow, you kind of cross-pollinate in those worlds, and you're doing a lot of work, especially for education and anti-racist education, and you're doing a lot of work with Indigenous communities as well. So I think that's important. When I say, like, oh, follow Erin, and everyone's like, oh, she just makes t-shirts. I'm like, no. You don't understand.
Well, and that's how I use my platform, right? Like,
absolutely,
granted, that's fine, I can make t-shirts or whatever, but I want to donate my money. Yeah, I want to donate my money and my time to resources that help marginalized communities. Like, that's important to me. And also,
absolutely,
like, I think we discussed before, I think right now, a lot of Black folk are hitting a recognition that, like, if anybody can identify with our plight, it is Indigenous people. And that's not even just to say, like, Indigenous people in Canada. I'm talking like the Indigenous people of, like, Colombia, the Indigenous people of Mexico. These are people who have, these are people who have had their land stolen, taken, they've been, like, attacked, genocide, like, stolen from their land and traded.
People have been, like, entire tribes have been wiped out. Like,
there's been complete
murder, like, just
and
as bad as you can think of, and probably worse.
Yeah, and it's literally, like, I think that that's important. If people want to start doing the work to be anti-racist and recognize how they can have accountability and move forward and do better, they need to do things like read the Indian Act. There's actually there's a book called 21 Things That You Need to Know About the Indian Act, I think it's called. I can't remember who it's by. If I remember, I'll send it to you.
You can probably get it on Audible, people. Like, you can get everything on the internet right now.
I bought it for Gord for Christmas. And you can read books like White Supremacy and Me. Like, everybody wants to read White Fragility. Yeah, that's great. Do it after you read books by authors of color.
I say, don't read a white person's book first before you read about the suffrage of a person of color. What's a white person going to tell you about a Black person's suffrage?
Yeah. So read White Supremacy in Me or something like that. Or like Ibram X's How to Be Anti-Racist. Like, books like that. Right? And I think that those are the kinds of things that people can do just as starting points. Like, you don't need to advertise that you're reading that book. No. Just read it, take the lessons, and do the work. Just
absorb it.
Yeah. And recognize, like we talked about, the accountability is, like, acknowledge things that you have done. Apologize to people if you think you need to apologize to them. It doesn't have to be a big public apology. You can literally message a person that you think you might have hurt or offended with any behavior or actions and tell them that you're sorry and that you want to do better. And ask them if there's something. Yeah, ask them if there's something that you can do to help a cause or something that they care about, or like just even like little teeny gestures like that, right? Like,
exactly. Well, small things will cause a ripple effect, I think.
Yeah, I think those are important factors in people holding themselves accountable for potential actions and things that they have said in the past, or any of that stuff, right? So
exactly. Just own it, man. Well, everyone knows where they can find me, and I am going to continue to advocate for what I believe in. So, I mean, if you don't like the platform, I mean, get off it. You can find me on Instagram at 21st Century Rocker Mom. You can find me on all your favorite streaming platforms. And now we're on YouTube because we're doing these face-to-face things, which is great. And they're going live every, Sunday at 3. It's fun because you kind of get to see each other. Unfortunately, we're not beside each other, but we still get to have that energy. I'm on Twitter. Sometimes I'm on Twitter being a bitch, Tana Candler, just at my name. I'm on TikTok just being weird, mostly videos from my kids. That's at 21st Century Rocker Mom too. Do you love it?
I do.
So weird. I love that TikTok. I got sucked into the rabbit hole, but we're going to continue to have these talks. I think Erin is just going to continue to be a reoccurring guest because she has a lot to say, and I have a lot to listen to. I like it too. I love having you here. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with me and having a little church talk here.
My pleasure.
We made our own fucking church.
That's right. Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus.
Oh, my cheese has to be with the Z or a Z because it's not real cheese.
That's right. Praise
not no more.
Jesus.
I guess I'm going to have to say Hail Satan because it's that vegan.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I love it.